Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope everyone's having a great day. I am. I had a fantastic day. Yesterday, one of those, I don't want to say rare, but just a fantastic day. Wait a minute, I got to plug my phone in. Oh. Though I did hurt my back. I think I pulled a muscle in my back, which sucks because I've been doing some exercises, and I think that unfortunately, when you're fat, out of shape man like me and you try to get in shape, sometimes you pull a muscle. But I'm all right. I'm doing okay. Had a great evening last night. It was movie night. We watched Wall-E. We watched one called Jungle Cruise with The Rock. Jungle Cruise, is okay, I guess. I don't know. Did I build that piece of wood behind me? I did not. A good friend of mine built that. And actually, if anyone would ever, you could look him up. It's from Cattail Resin Works. A friend of mine runs that. He's a friend of the show. So you can find him on social media. Check out Cattail Resin Works. He does a lot. He does coffee tables. Works with resin and wood. Very cool. Very good guy. Friend of mine in real life. But waiting on pizza. Yeah, anyways, we had a fun movie night. I'd never seen Wall-E. I thought it was pretty good. I guess it was all right. But it was a good time. So anyways, we're back tonight. Figure State of the Union. Now, I'll admit, I hate doing these streams. And let me tell you why. Anytime there's a live debate, thank you so much, Lavin. I appreciate the sub. Anytime there's a live debate or speech, I find it very difficult to stream it. Because I am a wordy person. I never shut up. And so, if I'm watching a channel and there's a debate, you know what I want to watch? The debate. Or the speech. I don't want to watch commentators talking about the debate or the speech in real time. And so I annoy myself commenting in real time. Oh, let me shut the door so my loud mouth doesn't wake my son up. So I'll try to only weigh in. I'll try to only weigh in when I think there's something relevant to say. But obviously I'll stream before it and after it some. And kind of give my thoughts on it. And that's sort of the plan. I mean, I don't know what to say. We live in interesting times. At the same time that we're being told, like Joe Scarborough, let's see if I can find this clip. Like, we'll start with this. Oh my, I can't even, like, it's just, oh my God. It amazes me, like, what gets me is how more brazen the gaslighting and the lies are becoming. Like, I don't this might upset a lot of people that are my supporters, but I don't think that you're necessarily an evil or a bad person if you vote Democrat, if you're voting for Joe Biden. You have your reasons. I think those are dumb. I think that you'll probably come to regret that decision. I think he's more authoritarian, not because he himself is a bad person, but he is. But he's just a puppet that represents the establishment interest. But I understand how people will come to their own conclusions. I'll make fun of them or I'll criticize them. But I have friends that will vote for Biden. That's okay. I'm not sitting here telling you, like, then I'll never speak to that person again and they're evil. I'm not saying that, right? What I don't get, though, well, it's not what I don't get. It's what I find hilarious are the people that want to gaslight about him. There's no border crisis. The economy is doing fantastic. His foreign policy is amazing. What are you talking about? And, of course, the biggest gaslight of all is that Joe Biden is sharp as a tack, man. He's smarter than everyone. And we've heard Kamala Harris say it, Pete Buttigieg say it, and media people say it. They're all saying it, Karen Jean-Pierre. It's just unfortunate that every time you see him on the television screen, anywhere in public, he looks like a dementia-addled old man. Even the special counsel that's looking into him says we can't charge him because he basically has dementia. But still we're told, oh no, he's great. So as we go into this, talking about what the State of the Union is going to be about and my predictions and what have. Let's start with this moment by the intrepid Joe Scarborough. Remember, this is a guy that for years told you he was a Republican. Let's hear what Scarborough has to say about Joe Biden. How he's doing right now. All right? Get my headphones on. Look at this guy. What a clown.
I think he's better than he's ever been. Intellectually, analytically, because he's been around for 50 years. And, I don't know if people knew this or not. Biden used to be a hothead. Sometimes that Irishman would get in front of the reasoning. Sometimes he would say things he didn't want to say. This is, and I don't really, you know what? I don't really care. Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. Mm-hmm. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. Not a close second. And I've known him for years. The Brzezinskis have known him for 50 years. If it weren't the truth, I wouldn't say it.
There you have it. Now, that honestly, thank you so much, Randy West, for the super chat. Now, there's two ways to look at this. One, it's just blatant garbage gaslighting. Or maybe he's right. Maybe the doddering old man you see that doesn't know where he's at and the Easter Bunny has to direct him where to go. That's still the best version of Biden that's ever existed. Maybe so. Doesn't speak much for this version of Biden. It's really incredible. I tweeted this out. If you're not following me on Twitter, you're making a huge mistake. I'm sorry, X, in case Elon's watching. I don't want to piss him off. One of the things I tweeted out today, or posted, whatever we're calling it now, was we used to take your political beliefs and ideology out of it for a second. Let's pretend that you were a completely nonpartisan, non-political person. If we were all that. Why would you watch Donald Trump? Right, username. He's so competent until we're looking at crimes of his, and then he's incompetent. But yeah, let's go to trial then. Why'd people like watching Trump? What was or dislike? What was the reason to tune in? No matter what you think of Trump's politics, you might thought he was a huge danger to the country, etc., etc. He was entertaining. And the reason was, you didn't know what he was going to say. He's going to make fun of people. He's going to tell jokes. Sometimes not. Sometimes during the State of the Union, it would be a very sober speech. But it was always worth watching because you didn't know. You didn't know. One of the things that just hit me, and in other words, another way to put it was, he was a good president for the memes. Right? Like it was, some shit was going to go down. But you know what I realized today? So's Biden. For completely different reasons. But Biden's must-see TV. I know Jon Stewart stole my joke, but when I was watching Biden's speech about Special Counsel Hur, I watched it live. I was watching it with my wife on the television. And you could, I swear to God, this is true. He, you remember he ambles off the stage. He's ambling off. And the crowd starts asking him a question. And he stops and he turns back. And right at that moment, all of his handlers were right off stage. No, what's he doing? Just get him off the stage. Then, of course, he goes back and starts talking about Sisi, the president of Mexico that borders Gaza. Oh, what a disaster. That's why the State of the Union's worth watching. It's not because, and I'll even say this about Trump. The State of the Union's point, because he's been saying we should get rid of the State of the Union. I don't mind them doing it. What's the harm in doing it? You're like, I wish they would not do it. You don't have to watch, I guess. I don't know what the harm of, how would it be any different than if the president decides to give a press conference every day and be like, here's how things went this week. So I don't mind him doing it. I know it's sort of a bully pulpit, and I hate the performance that everyone stands up and this and that and blah, 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 blah. It is kind of annoying. I hate that. But the reason that we're watching tonight is the guy going to make it? He talks to the people so infrequently that when you know he's supposed to be up there for an hour, you're like, I don't know if he's going to make it. Whatever drug cocktails they have on him, it's got to be the long-lasting ones, right? They have to be shooting that shit straight into his veins as he's shambling out, right? Like, that's how they got to do it, right? And so we're watching. Do you really care how he gaslights you? I mean, we know what he's going to say. Trump's a threat to democracy. MAGA's a threat to democracy. The economy's the strongest it's ever been. The border's great, and the fact that it's not great is because the Republicans, because they need to pass this bill, which was really a garbage bullshit bill that would just allow more illegals to come in and enshrine in law for 3 years in case the Democrats don't win, that this is how we'd have to do it, and also relied on people like Mayorkas and the people under him to have sort of the ability to waive court hearings for people that wanted amnesty, etc., which would have led for even more illegals coming. That's what the bill was. But he'll say, yeah, there wasn't a problem at the border, and it's all Trump's fault, and Republicans, and they need to pass this. And he'll talk about, he's got to try to appease the pro-Palestine people, so he'll talk about, we're trying to have a ceasefire, Israel's an important ally, but we can't let them go too far, and we need to have a ceasefire, and, that's it. You could write this speech in your sleep, you know what he's going to say. It's not what he's going to say, it's is he going to make it? And let me be clear, just for a moment, if I may. Even I thought some of Trump's State of the Unions were pretty good. I remember covering them. But keep in mind, these are pre-written by a team, And I understand that's how these things go. But for me, the politicians that I really like I like watching Ron DeSantis when a hostile media tries to have a gotcha at him and he just devastates them. That's not pre-scripted. That's not a pre-written speech. That's DeSantis off the cuff, who he really is, exhibiting his knowledge of the issues and how corrupt the media people are. And Trump had moments like that. One of the best, the moments I thought was indicative of a authentic speech, which I like, was when Trump was given the one State of the Union and he recognized a gentleman, I believe that had fought in World War II, but he was an elderly gentleman who was a veteran, and they recognized him, and it was his birthday. He was like 90-something, and everyone gave him a standing ovation, and Trump was like, yeah, they wouldn't applaud my birthday. And that was just a little off-the-cuff sort of self-deprivation, which I appreciated. I thought it shows sort of his authenticity and how he could be likable in that way. The speech itself, you could applaud a speech or not, but it's not as if Joe Biden wrote the speech. It wasn't as if Donald Trump wrote his States of the Unions, I'm more interested in what they're saying that's not pre-scripted when they're sort of answering questions back and forth. Maybe that's why Zygmunt said he wished they would get rid of this, because all it is a pre-written speech by a team. It's a bully pulpit. So the only reason I'm interested in watching it all is Joe Biden going to make it? How many weird pauses are we going to have? That's it. I don't really care how many times people stand up. Yeah, like my prediction, I saw someone say this is what's likely to happen. You'll have Republicans, Marjorie Taylor Greene or someone will, boo or something, scream something, and that'll become the big news story, not the absurd Biden muddling through things. The threshold is so low for Biden. If he literally just mumbles through, and doesn't have any charisma whatsoever and just mutters through whatever's on the teleprompter in front of him, that'll be considered a rousing success because everyone expects him to have trouble. So we'll see. I also saw someone else say this, but it's worth repeating. No matter what happens, you will see talking head media people like Joe Scarborough there that will say, this is the greatest speech that's ever been given. You'll hear that. Best speech Biden ever gave, best State of the Union they've ever. It's always like this when a Democrat does it. The media will say that. Doesn't matter if it was a good speech or not. That's what they'll say, And the other thing is, what are you hoping for in this speech? Well, because it's a speech, what I'm hoping for a Biden presidency is for the country to do great. I would hope that we're not on the verge of World War III. We are. I would hope that the border's secure. It isn't. I would hope that the economy is doing good. It isn't. That's what I'd hope. I'd hope they weren't locking up people for political disagreements. They are. So the country is going in a terrible way, largely in part to the establishment that Joe Biden's the figurehead for. But that's what I want for the country. I want the country to do. What do I want from this speech? You know, because people will accuse me of saying, you're hoping that Biden fails. No. This speech has nothing to do with Biden succeeds or fails as far as making the country better. The speech is his attempt to convince you that things are going well. You should already know if things are going well for you. But he's going to try to convince you. We'll see. I actually want Biden to give a good speech, though. That's what I want. That's what I'm cheering for. Don't get me wrong. In the moment, it'll be fun if he completely falls apart to make fun of him. He deserves it. But I don't want that to happen. Because what I want to happen is the establishment to lose. That's what I want. And I think the best chance the establishment has to lose is for Biden to be the candidate. That's what I feel. And if Biden collapses tonight, that increases the chances that he won't be the candidate. So if he would literally pass out in the middle of this speech, do you think he'll be the candidate? Of course not. He might not anyways. I'm still thinking there's a better than not chance he won't be the candidate. But if he just completely shits the bed or passes out or something, that'll be it. And that's not good for those of us that want the establishment to lose, because that means he'll be replaced with someone who's probably has a better chance to win. So I'm cheering for Biden to give a competent speech. That's what I'm cheering for. Make sure. Yeah, but Zygmunt, how can you avoid that? If I was president, I would give fireside chats every night. Would you say I shouldn't be allowed to do those because that's demagoguery? I disagree. You might not like to hear it, but yeah. It's dumb. You can't stop him. And by the way, if you do that, what ends up happening is the people that harms the most are the people that would end up getting into political power that the media doesn't like. If you don't allow the people, I'm going to try to live stream. If you don't allow the president to speak to the people on his own, then what happens is it gets filtered through different people like the mainstream media. That's what would happen. Do you think the mainstream media is antithetical to the political positions you hold? I do, which would mean that it would be even less likely that someone that holds the political positions you do would be able to get his voice out to the people. It would have to be filtered through the New York Times and CNN and the Washington Post and ABC and CBS. I don't want that, or even Fox News. So I would rather have the president speak directly to the people. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly what the State of the Union is, but it's at least more in that vein. Also, it's worth saying that there are... By the way, everyone who's watching on X, thank you so much. 33 people watching on X. Really appreciate it. We'll have fun stuff to say the whole time. Don't worry about it. We're going to make sure that once it starts, I'll be streaming and you might want to follow me on X because I believe X will leave me continue to live stream it. You know how YouTube is and Twitch. Sometimes they ban you from these sorts of things. Now, I'm trying to avoid that by going directly through the White House's feed on YouTube. So surely they won't censor me because I would imagine they want people to see it. I'm going to watch it. Yeah. There are a bunch of pro-Palestinian protesters that were, as I was coming on, were blocking Biden's motorcade. You might think, isn't that delaying an official proceeding, which was called an insurrection? Apparently not. You see, even though these people might be sort of against what the establishment is, they're cheering for with the Israel-Palestine conflict, the truth is they are on the left. And here's one of those, there's these little things that we have to pretend as a society to believe. We have to. They're these lies. We just have, like, biological men don't have a competitive advantage over biological women in sports. We have to pretend that. It's a disadvantage to be a woman running in politics. No, it's not. It's a huge advantage. It's a disadvantage to be a person of color running in politics. No, it's not. It's a huge advantage. There might be less women and people of color that do it, but if they do it, it's advantageous. Even if you're Republican, if you had two identical candidates, almost similar background, almost the exact same policy prescriptions, talked in very much the same way, and one was a woman of color and the other was a white man, who do you think Republicans would rather have? I've seen it. I've been in the meetings where they're talking about ideal candidates. Oh, the woman of color might be able to get us more inner city votes. Maybe it'll get us more women votes that we struggle to get. What's the direct link to my X account? It's just, well, here, I'll get it. It's just at robnoerr. Here. Twitter.com/robnoerr. All one word. There you go. So you have these pro-Palestinian protesters that are there. The truth is, lefties could protest with near impunity. Even if it would get violent tonight, those that weren't violent there's almost a 99.999999% chance nothing negative will happen to them. And if something negative does happen to them, like they would be arrested, they'll be given all sorts of financial help through organizations. They'll probably be able to have a lawsuit like many of the George Floyd rioters and protesters did, and then they'll end up making millions of dollars. That's what happens. Those that do engage in violence, it is a last resort, would be arrested and then given a slap on the wrist. It is one of the biggest open secrets that it's the exact inverse with the right. In fact, on the right, we spend time telling people, don't go to that protest, don't do it, because the feds are going to have agitators there, they're going to have glowies there, and they're going to look for an excuse to throw your ass in prison and throw the book at you. And there will be no help. You're not going to get some lawsuit where you make a bunch of money later. You're going to languish in prison for nothing. So just don't go. Don't even that's how far behind we are. Just don't go. Don't even show up to a protest if you're on the right. Don't do it. They'll throw the book at you. On the left, absolutely. Get out there. Clog up streets, man. Do it. They would keep Kamala out the same way that they would keep Biden from running. The truth is, don't mistake that these people that are in the establishment actually have a voice. They don't. If the establishment people said to Biden, you're out, and Biden was like, no, I'm not, they would put him out. They have enough dirt on him, they would unleash it and he would be gone. The same's true of Kamala. Kamala would come out if they pick Gavin Newsom and say, if they tell her, like, hey, you're going to endorse Newsom, that's what she would do. And then all the people on the left would go, oh, perfectly reasonable. Kamala didn't want the spot. Biden's going to finish out his term, and then it'll be Gavin Newsom. Maybe they keep her as VP. Maybe not. They go in a different direction. They don't want her because she's massively unpopular. Freedom. She's so bad. And let's see if we're ready. So it might start late because the motorcade was held up by left-wing Palestinian protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters. Remember the other day when they were in the halls of Congress and they didn't really get in trouble? I remember. Remember when Stephen Colbert's people were illegally in the halls of Congress and they didn't get in trouble? I remember. Oh, by the way, probably the best story of the weekend, just for sheer irony and schadenfreude, is Katie Hochul, the governor of New York, is now deploying the National Guard in New York subways. While at the same time, the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, also a Democrat, is tweeting, violent crime is down. Then why are you deploying the National Guard? That's how much bullshit, how much they'll gaslight you. They'll tell you the exact opposite things back to back and expect you to believe it. And all of their followers do. They all do, unquestioningly. There's no border crisis, and Trump caused the border crisis. The economy's doing fine, and Cookie Monster tells us that there's shrinkflation. It's corporations' fault. Violent crime, there's no violent crime, but we have to deploy the National Guard in subways. Ukraine is kicking the shit out of Russia, but we have to keep giving them money or Russia will invade NATO. Every single issue, that's what they do. It's not happening, but if it is happening, it's everyone else's fault. It's your fault. So now, I remember, and I said this right away, and I see other people were picking it up. Right out of the gate, right? The first thing I said when I saw this story that Katie Hochul deployed the National Guard to the subways in New York, I said, where are the New York Times? Does anyone remember May 30th, 2020? I remember. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who remembers. When a bunch of left-wingers decided to commit an insurrection, unlike January 6th, they brought lethal weapons in the forms of Molotov cocktails. They injured dozens of police officers. They burned down a guard station in an attempt to break into the White House to physically get at the President of the United States. The threat was so severe that Secret Service moved Donald Trump into a secure bunker, to which media, even Joe Biden himself, made fun of Trump for that, for having to move. A day or so after that, Tom Cotton put an op-ed, Tom Cotton, who's a senator, Republican, put an op-ed in the New York Times that said, geez, with all these riots, because remember that in 2020, Summer of Love, when we had George Floyd riots every night? He said, maybe we should deploy the National Guard if the local police force is incapable or unwilling because the mayors wouldn't allow them. And the editorial board at the New York Times had to remove that op-ed, and I believe one of the editors resigned because all of the writers at the New York Times said, how dare you include that op-ed from a senator because it's fascism. It's a call for fascism. And we're all going to resign from the New York Times until you remove it. And they did. They removed the op-ed. Because deploying the National Guard to stop violent rioters that were primarily burning down black communities, that was authoritarian. Now, deploying the National Guard to New York subways, while the mayor of New York tells us there's no violent crime. It's down. It's doing great. Where's the New York Times? Are the writers threatening to quit? It's just laughable. George Santos is there. That's great. So I'm using the White House feed, so I don't know if it'll start later than. But that's my attempt to not get kicked off of YouTube because sometimes if you show like CNN's clip, CNN will flag it. I saw, I'm about an hour and a half outside of Pittsburgh. And I used to listen to a lot of sports radio. Even the Pittsburgh sports radio has just become, hey, what's up? Hi, I like booba. Like is that a clever way to get around censorship? Or wasn't there a kid's show called Booba? Is that what you're talking about? Anyways, everybody knows ESPN became garbage, and, they talk more about politics and cultural issues than sports. Same's true of our local media. Yeah, right. I remember that show, or parts of it. It was weird as I'll get out. Anyways, Yeah, the local sports radio, it was 93.7 The Fan. I used to love listening to it back in the day, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And then, of course, it just became with Trump. Thanks so much. I appreciate the follow. With Trump, then it became more and more political. And then, obviously, you almost don't know what started first, the chicken or the egg. Was it that the athletes started to become more political, and so then necessarily the journalists covering them had to talk about those issues more? Or was it that the journalists started more? I don't know. It's all a big hodgepodge at this point. But I don't really pay attention to sports near as much as I used to, and I get tired of sports radio as well. But there are a couple characters whose names I still know, and I'll still see their tweets. For example, the one Penguin I really like, Jake Gensel, I believe was being traded tonight. Anyways, I bring all this up because one of the people, his name's Colin Dunlap, who has a show on 93.7 The Fan, tweeted out, I don't know if he personally went or if others did, but the Allegheny City Council, so that's like the Pittsburgh downtown city council, had a meeting yesterday or the night before, and for 5 hours, they talked about Israel-Palestine. 5 hours. And he's like, why? Like, what? There's problems in Pittsburgh. There's problems with homelessness. There's problems with infrastructure. Like, the downtown area, which was once one of the better ones in the country. I mean, I don't go to a lot of cities, but friends I have that live in Pittsburgh say, hey, things are on the decline. So there's real issues. It's not like Pittsburgh's this utopia. Well, there's nothing going on here. We could talk about the world problems because everything's perfect here. It's not that. So why are they doing it? It's everywhere. I hope for your sake it's not as well, David. Sounds like an awesome thing to do, applying for an electrical union. I wish I was a good blue-collar worker, but no, I'm shit. Those are the people I love best, though, the blue-collar workers. I don't know, is my job considered... What color is my job? Healthcare, what's that considered? I don't know. By the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my ongoing counter. It's been, if you're just following me, and I assume there's a lot of new people following me because there's a lot of people watching on X, please feel free to follow me on X. Also, I'll put the links up to my YouTube and Twitch. I try to stream 3-4 nights a week on all of my platforms, which would be YouTube, Twitch. I think that I'm probably, and my audience could tell you, 1 second, Callahan, I'll let you know. My audience can tell you, I think I'm probably... in the debate sphere online, probably the best populist debater or conservative-leaning debater. There's some good, like, Christian nationalist debaters over at my friends at their show, The Crucible. There's some good debaters over there. I consider myself a populist first and foremost. My issue is corruption. That's the issue I focus on more. I think that I'm willing to reach across the aisle to left-wing people that also see problems with corruption, because for me, as long as we have institutions that really run our government and they don't care about our voice and they just do whatever they want, such as spying on a sitting president or using lawfare to go after him or censoring people or locking up journalists that are trying to tell the truth, then the issues that the left and the right would traditionally argue about become irrelevant. For example, if you're a left-winger and you want to have a heated debate with me about Medicare for all, which I disagree with, but if we had that debate, at the end of the day, that debate's not going to move the needle. And you want to know why? Because if the healthcare industry doesn't want Medicare for all, if the people in the Uniparty in D.C. don't want Medicare for all, if the military-industrial complex doesn't, and, you know, the people in the intel agencies, then we ain't getting it. Because that's who runs the election. So those are the issues that I focus on, and I love debating these left-wing people. I debate them all the time, including some bigger streamers, and I think I always do very well. I had debated, whether it be personally, like on video debating, live streaming, or just arguing with people on X. I'm not joking, dozens of left-wing people, including some big-name people, that told me that the most open and shut serious criminal case of Trump was the classified documents case. And the best evidence was that he's on tape admitting that he has classified material to a writer. And when that story broke, I was doing panels where all these lefties, this is open and shut. It's open and shut. It's so clear cut. So clear. That's what they said. It doesn't get any more clear than that. It's on tape. That's what they said. Oh, okay. We're starting. I'll just say real quick, I have not heard not one of the people that said that that was a clear-cut case say anything now that the Her report showed that Biden did that not once, not twice, but 3 times, and then proceeded to read the classified material. Home health care, to answer your question, Colin, right as we jump in here, I deal with basically adults with intellectual disabilities. I work in their homes, so people with autism and things like that. All right, let's roll. Can we mumble through it? There we go. The sign language lady looks like David Pakman. That's the first thing I notice. And we see the Supreme Court justices. I really, really hate the theater of the standing up every time. It drags the speech on so long. We get it. They should do it like if I was president, I'd be like, hold your applause, please. You're a paramedic? That's awesome, man. Yeah, I love my job. It takes a lot of hours. I do block shifts, and I have to be there even when I'm off the clock. And so right now there's only 2 people that work in my home, so I literally have to be there at a minimum half the week. And then unfortunately I'm there because I'm sort of the record keeper of the house, and I set up medical appointments and things of that nature. I'm the only one who does that. So I usually end up working around 90 hours a week, paid. That doesn't include the hours I'm there off the clock. So it makes streaming difficult because I'm also a father of a 3-year-old, and I like to spend time with my family because I'm lucky enough to have the world's greatest family. So I like to spend time with them. Am I the only one who sees that? Does anyone know who David Pakman is? Doesn't that person kind of look like David Pakman? Let's see if I can show you what I mean. He's a garbage left-wing streamer. I'd love to debate him, by the way. We're gaveling in here.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
Here we go. Let me know make sure the audio's okay. It looks like it should be good here. Again, my style of this is I'll try to interject a little, but I got to check myself or it'll just be me talking over Biden the whole time. So I'll try to give little jabs. Again, I'm hoping he does well, because the worse he does, the better chance that they don't allow him to be the nominee. But for him, a high bar is, not passing out. And we'll see if he can get through this. Look, they're literally... All right. And listen, I don't like Joe Biden, but I don't wish dementia on anyone. I really don't. The guy should be at home with his family. Yeah, I know people like my commentary. Of course, that's why you're here. But I want to hear the speech, and if I'm talking over it, then I won't be able to hear. So I'll chime in. Don't worry. There won't be any shockers. I'm not really I already sort of gave. It'll be the same. He'll attack Trump. He'll claim that everything's Trump's fault. He'll say that Republicans are at fault for not signing the border bill. Corporations are at fault for inflation. He has to give an olive branch to the extreme left wing of his party that wants a ceasefire in Gaza. So he'll say something like that. But it's not what he says. It's a pre-written speech. We know what to expect on that front. Of course, there'll be some people that he recognizes, and some of them will be cool people, a veteran or, someone who did some sort of great scientific achievement or something. Then those things happen. There'll be a lot of standing up and applauding, which I find incredibly annoying. But what I'm interested in, and it's the spectacle of when you have a dementia-addled old man as the leader of the free world, supposed leader, he doesn't do anything, people behind the scenes do. You got to see, it's always a challenge. Did the drug cocktails they gave him enough to keep him through the speech? Here we go, baby, let's see it. So, I think he'll get through it with some awkward pauses, but I don't think it'll be anything too shocking. I assume they got some of the best doctors available, mixing up, some sort of drug cocktail to keep his body stimulated for an hour, whatever it'll take to get through it. Yeah, they probably promised him ice cream afterwards, so. Thank God there's no little kids in the crowd, right? He'd be kissing at them, sniffing their hair, so. This guy here he's talking to, I don't know who that is, but he's rocking the same haircut that I'm growing into. The horseshoe bald on top. I never used to wear hats until I realized I was going bald. Also, I like when I debate left-wingers and their fans will be like, "What, are you wearing a hat because you're bald?" Yeah, I admit it. No one wants to see the reflection coming off the top of my head. Oh, there's Marjorie Taylor Greene giving him the business. Good stuff. What if he just punched her? I would not like his chances in a physical altercation with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Some of these people I recognize, but I forget their names. The gentleman on the far left there with the beard, I forget his name, but I know him. Al something maybe? It's a lake in rock. Is that what it is? Yeah, I understand. Like, people don't have the same style I have. I wouldn't be, yelling or anything, making a fool of myself during this. Oh, the G Unit. Are you the G Unit? That would be impressive. Thank you for the follow, though. I appreciate it. You're the real one. All right, man. Throw me some bones. I'll give it. I'm sure G Unit's doing well financially. Right? Where's Corn Pop? They have him out. Republicans always give, or the party that doesn't have the president always gives a rebuttal. Maybe it'll be Corn Pop. Maybe they found him. That fight was bullshit, he'll say. Corn Pop will come out and be like, here's what happened, man. I approached him because he was a creep having kids fill his leg hair in the pool. Tie all of his stories together. It was in Scranton. I don't know. They get to be on TV, I mean, I know I'm no looker, don't get me wrong. But, man, Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer there together, that's a pretty picture, huh? Looks tired. Chuck. Oh, we got a 4 more year chant already. Oh, he salutes. There you go. There's always the ladies that wear white, the Democrats. I forget what that's supposed to represent. But you always see that. Maybe they mean 4 more years before he's in a nursing home? I don't know. It's only downhill from here. We'll see. Now again, the bar's incredibly low. My prediction is he gets through the speech relatively smoothly. There'll be some awkward pauses, but I don't think there'll be any catastrophes. Those are more likely to happen when he's going off script. Traditionally, the State of the Union is very managed, pre-written. So I think at this point, unless he has a significant medical emergency in the moment, you're likely to see him be able to muddle through. And again, I'm hoping that's the case, because I think any obvious... One thing about the State of the Union is there might be more people watching it than watch a traditional sort of news night or a traditional press conference. And so them gaslighting everyone that he doesn't have any mental problems would be really difficult to do if he has significant ones on stage tonight. So I'm hoping he doesn't, because what's best for me is that Biden remains their candidate. So that's what I'm hoping occurs. But it'll be fun for the memes and the I told you so's if he does struggle. Adderalled out of his mind. Yeah. There's Elizabeth Warren on the far left there. Hirono standing next to Bernie Sanders. Bernie looks pleased. I'm enjoying my third lake house from selling out my progressive ideals. Good job, Bernie. You did it, man. All right, here we go. Good, they're turning up the volume. I was worried about that. So that's right, Vita. That's, like I said, people watch Trump because they wondered what he was going to say. People watch Biden to see if he'll be able to talk. But both good for the memes. I mean, this is the leader of the strongest country in the history of the world, folks. Let's listen. I'm just now noticing. I'm a sucker for the interpreters. Like, they always amuse me. I think it's cool. I'm glad they do it. But she seemed like she was having a good time there, smiling. So, probably a big moment for this lady, right? All right, here we go. We're gaveling in.
Good evening. Good evening. If I were smart, I'd go home now.
Not a bad joke.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans, in January 1941, Franklin Roosevelt came to this chamber to speak to the nation, and he said, I address you at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. President Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people that this was no ordinary time. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world. Tonight, I come to this same chamber to address the nation. Now, it's we who face an unprecedented moment in the history of the Union. And yes, my purpose tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment either.
Just like Hitler.
Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas.
That's true. He's locking up his political opponents.
Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not.
That's funny. The experts I talk to, the self-proclaimed experts, tell me Russia's so weak, maybe they'd be able to get into Moldova, but that would be it. So you get some bipartisan support for sending your money. Even Republicans will stand up there. There we go. Good Republicans.
Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine and provide the weapons that it needs to defend itself.
That's right. How else will their cronies get all the kickbacks that they're sending? Notice that's the first issue he talked about. They don't care about you.
That is all Ukraine is asking. They're not asking for American soldiers. In fact, there are no American soldiers at war in Ukraine, and I'm determined to keep it that way.
There are
now,
supposedly intel people there, though.
Assistance to Ukraine is being blocked by those who want to walk away from our world leadership. It wasn't long ago when a Republican president named Ronald Reagan thundered, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall."
Wasn't that long ago when people like Biden were voting for the Iraq war as well, using the same rhetoric.
Now my predecessor,
well, so-called experts, webmaster
former
like
Republican
Dylan Burns,
president tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote. A former president actually said that.
That's not what he said. He said for the people that in NATO that wouldn't pay their dues.
It's dangerous and it's unacceptable.
Again, no words about the American people yet. First and foremost, send billions of dollars to Ukraine so we could lose sight of it and get
Founding member of
kickbacks.
NATO, the military alliance of democratic nations, created after World War II to prevent war and keep the peace. And today, we've made NATO stronger than ever. We welcomed Finland to the alliance last year. And just this morning, Sweden officially joined, and their minister is here tonight. Come here, stand up.
Yep, because the westward expansion, or I'm sorry, the eastward expansion of NATO is what's leading to countries like Russia feeling that they're being encircled and attacked. Glad that Sweden, a country that's traditionally been neutral, has decided to finally get in.
Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to NATO, the strongest military alliance the world has ever seen. I say this to Congress, we have to stand up to Putin. Send me a bipartisan national security bill. History is literally watching. History is watching.
Just like with Iraq, just like with Libya, just like with Syria.
It will put Ukraine at risk. Europe is at risk. The free world will be at risk, emboldening others to do us harm.
Sweden's been neutral, though.
My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away.
Forever money. We'll never quit. We don't know how Ukraine will win, but we'll keep sending billions. And you back home, tough shit.
I will not bow down.
Well, except when he's having sundowning.
In a literal sense, history is watching. History is watching. Just like history watched 3 years ago on January 6th. An insurrection stormed the Capitol and placed a dagger at the throat of American democracy. Many of you are here on that darkest of days.
That's what they're running on. That's all they have. Can't run on the economy, the border.
The insurrectionists were not patriots. They'd come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people. January 6th lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy. Civil war.
Yep.
But they failed.
Questioning the election, that's the biggest threat since the Civil Wars.
America stood strong and democracy prevailed.
And now we're keeping our opponents off ballots for democracy.
The threat to democracy must be defended. My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th. I will not do that. This is the moment to speak the truth and to bury the lies. Here's the simple truth. You can't love your country only when you win.
Really? Can you explain why your party spent 4 years sabotaging Trump, using illegal spying, an FBI that was out against him the whole time, media that was saying he was an agent of Putin, the opponent of his saying the election was stolen from her, dozens upon dozens of elected Democrats saying the election was stolen, riots that occurred over and over again?
I ask all of you, without regard to party, to join together and defend democracy. Remember your oath of office of defending against all threats, foreign and domestic. Respect free and fair elections. Restore trust in our institutions.
They started off talking about the moment like stopping Hitler, then went to Putin, and then went to Trump. That's all he's talked about. Domestic and foreign threats, literally likening Trump to Putin and to Hitler. That's the Democrat strategy. And then they say, when you oppose their authoritarian measures to lock people up, censor, keep people off the ballot, you're attacking democracy.
We're watching. Your children and grandchildren will read about this day and what we do. History is watching another assault on freedom. Joining us tonight is Latoya Beasley, a social worker from Birmingham, Alabama. 14 months ago, she and her husband welcomed a baby girl thanks to the miracle of IVF. She scheduled treatments to have that second child, but the Alabama Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state, unleashed by a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. She was told her dream would have to wait. What her family had got through should never have happened. Unless Congress acts, it could happen again. So tonight, let's stand up for families like hers. To my friends across the aisle, don't keep this waiting any longer. Guarantee the right to AVF.
AVF?
Guarantee it nationwide.
I wouldn't have a problem if they passed a national law on IVF.
Like most Americans, I believe Roe v. Wade got it right. I thank Vice President Harris for being an incredible leader, defending reproductive freedom, and so much more.
Did Alabama just change the law? I'm unaware of that. But
my predecessor came to office determined to see Roe v. Wade overturned. He's the reason it was overturned, and he brags about it.
Okay.
Look at the chaos that has resulted. Joining us tonight is Kate Cox, the wife and mother from Dallas. She's become pregnant again and had a fetus of a fatal condition. Her doctor told Kate that her own life and her ability to have children in the future were at risk if she didn't act. Because Texas law banned her ability to act.
I would like to see this specific case. I think this is dubious already.
What her family got through should have never happened as well, but it's happening in too many others. There are state laws banning the freedom to choose, criminalizing doctors, forcing survivors of rape and incest to leave their states to get the treatment they need. Many of you in this chamber and my predecessor are promising to pass a national ban on reproductive freedom. My God, what freedom else would you take away? Look, it's a decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court majority wrote the following, and with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that.
You know who's not there tonight? The babies who went through the successful abortion procedure. They're not there.
Clearly.
Millions of them aren't there tonight, right? Killing babies! Woo!
Clearly.
Yeah, that's what we're for. Can we get a standing ovation for adult books and libraries
Those
after this? Children's
about
libraries.
Overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women. But they found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot. We won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024.
It's actually smart to bring this up as one of the first issues, though, because I do think that this is a place that they'll get enthusiasm up for Democrats, even though I disagree, obviously.
People send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
What would the law look like? Because Democrats believe there should be no law, that it should be up to a woman and her doctor. So therefore, 9-month abortions.
Folks,
that's the official Democrat position.
America cannot go back. I'm here tonight to show what I believe is the way forward, because I know how far we come. 4 years ago next week, before I came to office, the country was hit by the worst pandemic and the worst economic crisis in a century. Remember the fear, record losses?
Yeah, caused by you people.
Spikes in crime and the murder rate, raging virus that took more than 1 million American lives, of loved ones, millions left behind.
Majority died when you were in office.
Mental health crisis of isolation and loneliness.
Which was supported by you, lockdowns.
My predecessor, failed the most basic presidential
More people
duty
died under the
that he
same
owes to
time
American
period
people,
during
duty to
Biden than
care.
did under Trump.
I think that's unforgivable. I came to office determined to get us through one of the toughest periods in the nation's history. We have, It doesn't make news, but news in 1,000 cities and towns. The American people are writing the greatest comeback story never told.
And they're struggling mightily. Isn't it great how they just skipped the part that the people that were more locked down were the Democrats?
Tell the story here.
Isn't that funny?
Tell it here and now. America's comeback is building the future of American possibilities, building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down, investing in all America, in all Americans, to make sure everyone has a fair shot, and we leave no one behind. The pandemic no longer controls our lives.
Never should have.
Vaccines that saved us from COVID are now being used to beat cancer, turning setback into comeback. That's what America does.
Did he say the vaccines that were used to beat COVID are now being used to beat cancer? Is that what he said? What?
Folks, my inherited economy is on the brink. Now our economy is literally the envy of the world. 15 million new jobs in just 3 years, a record.
Because you all shut down and forced people to close. And then when you let them come back, call that jobs added.
At 50-year lows.
Because everyone has to have multiple jobs to survive in your economy.
Record 16 million Americans are starting small businesses, and each one is a literal act of hope.
Because many of them had to collapse because of your authoritarian lockdown policies.
Business growth for Black and Hispanics and Asian Americans, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America, and counting. Where is it written we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world? We are, we will. More people have health insurance today. More people have health insurance today than ever before. The racial wealth gap is as small as it's been in 20 years. Wages keep going up. Inflation keeps coming down.
It's not true.
Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%, the lowest in the world, and tending lower.
Because the inflation was so high for years at the beginning of your presidency that prices spiked so much it was unsustainable to keep that up. People are still paying huge percentages of their economy on generalities such as food.
We're exporting American products and creating American jobs. Right here in America, where they belong.
Most of the jobs that have been created have been for foreign-born people.
And it takes time, but the American people are beginning to feel it. Consumer studies show consumer confidence is soaring. Buy America.
Don't believe that.
Has been the law of the land since the 1930s. Past administrations, including my predecessor, including some Democrats as well in the past, failed to buy American. Not anymore. On my watch, federal projects that you fund, like helping build American roads, bridges, and highways, will be made with American products and built by American workers.
Everybody says that,
American job.
Yeah, and who's an American? Well, any illegal we let in.
And thanks to our CHIPS and Science Act, the United States is investing more in research and development than ever before. During the pandemic, a shortage of semiconductors, chips, that drove up the price of everything from cell phones to automobiles. And by the way, we invented those chips right here in America. Well, instead of having to import them, private companies are now investing billions of dollars to build new chip factories here in America, creating tens of thousands of jobs. Many of those jobs paying $100,000 a year and don't require a college degree. In fact, my policies have attracted $650 billion in private sector investment in clean energy, advanced manufacturing, creating tens of thousands of jobs here in America.
They can manipulate the statistics, which oftentimes, almost every time, then months later, they have to downwardly revise. It's always a downward revision. But everybody knows the economy's doing terribly.
Bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I like it. I'm with you. I'm with you.
It's not a bad line.
And if any of you don't want that money in your district, just let me know. Modernizing our roads and bridges, ports and airports, public transit systems. removing poisonous lead pipes so every child can drink clean water without risk of brain
How's
damage.
that working in East Palestine? How's that money going to the Maui fires? Again, it's easy to just say this stuff,
affordable high-speed internet for every American, no matter where you live, urban, suburban, or rural communities, in red states and blue states. Record investments in tribal communities. Because of my investment in family farms, because I invested in family farms led by my Secretary of Agriculture, who knows more about this than anybody I know, we're better able
What about
to
your
stay
son?
in
I thought
family
Hunter
with
was the
those
smartest
farms
guy you
so
knew.
that- And their children and grandchildren won't have to leave home to make a living. It's transformative. The great comeback story is Belvedere, Illinois, home to an auto plant for nearly 60 years. Before I came to office, the plant was on its way to shutting down. Thousands of workers feared for their livelihoods. Hope was fading. Then I was elected to office, and we raised the Belvedere repeatedly with auto companies, knowing unions would make all the difference. The UAW worked like hell to keep the plant open and get these jobs back, and together we succeeded. Instead of auto factories shutting down, auto factories reopening, and new state-of-the-art battery factories being built to power those cars there at the same.
It was probably shutting down because of terrible COVID policies.
Folks,
Yeah, they do want to ban cars. Yeah, that's a great point,
folks in
David.
Belvedere, I say, instead of your town being left behind,
Like East
the
Palestine.
community is moving forward again. Because instead of watching auto jobs of the future go overseas, 4,000 union jobs with higher wages are building the future in Belvedere right here in America.
Now, let me say, so far, very limited gaffes. He sounds angry, but his energy's up.
Here tonight is UAW President Shawn Fain, a great friend and a great labor leader. Shawn, where are you? Stand up. And Dawn Sims, a third-generation worker, UAW worker at Belvedere. Shawn, I was proud to be the first president to stand on the picket line, and today, Dawn has a good job in her hometown, providing stability for her family and pride and dignity as well. Showing once again, Wall Street didn't build America. They're not bad guys. They didn't build it, though. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class.
That's right. Yep, the middle class that can't afford a home anymore. Thanks, Democrats and establishment Republicans. Thank you, guys.
I say to the American people, when America gets knocked down, we get back up. We keep going. That's America. That's you, the American people. It's because of you America's coming back. It's because of you our future is brighter. It's because of you that tonight we can proudly say the state of our union is strong and getting stronger.
Wink the little fist. He does, like, I can't say shit, though, because sometimes I come across as very angry. But he does seem angry, doesn't he? Like, Trump seemed, when he did this, more, like, relaxed, loosey-goosey. But again,
Tonight,
it's a stylistic thing. I'm not saying that means
Tonight,
anything.
I want to talk about the future of possibilities that we can build together. A future where the days of trickle-down economics are over, and the wealthy and the biggest corporations no longer get all the tax breaks. And by the way, I understand corporations. I come from the
largest
state
wealth
that has
disparity
more corporations invested than
in the history of our
every one the
country.
states in the state, United
It's
States
increased
combined.
massively over the last 4 years.
And I represented it for 36 years. I'm not anti-corporation, but I grew up in a home where trickle-down economics didn't put
There's
much
a
on my
reason
dad's
that
kitchen
wealthy
table.
corporate interests tend
That's why I
to favor the
determined to turn
Democratic
things around
Party
so the
now.
middle class does well. When they do well, the poor go way up, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well. And there's more to do to make sure you're feeling the benefits of all we're doing. Americans pay more for prescription drugs than anywhere in the world. It's wrong, and I'm ending it.
Yeah? What have you done for the past 3 years?
With a law What I proposed and signed, not one of you Republican buddies voted for it. We finally beat Big Pharma. Instead of paying $400 a month or thereabouts for insulin with diabetes, and it only costs $10 to make, they only get paid $35 a month now and still make a healthy profit. And I want to, but what to do next? I want to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for every American who needs it. Everyone. For years.
Right.
People have talked
Big Pharma's
about it,
willing to
finally
do that
we
because
got
of the
it
money
done.
we gave them
Gave
during
Medicare
COVID.
the power to negotiate lower prices on prescription drugs, just like the VA is able to do for veterans.
Yeah, VA does a swell job.
That's not just saving seniors money, it's saving taxpayers money. We cut the federal deficit by $160 billion.
It's bullshit. We spent
Medicare
$1 trillion in 3 months.
No longer have to pay those exorbitant prices to Big Pharma. This year, Medicare is negotiating lower prices for some of the costliest drugs on the market to treat everything from heart disease to arthritis. It's now time to go further and give Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for 500 different drugs over the next decade.
I'm sure price controls have a rich history of working, right?
And they'll still be extremely profitable. Will not only save lives, it will save taxpayers another $200 billion. Starting next year, the same law caps total prescription drug costs for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a year, even for expensive cancer drugs that cost $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. Now I want to cap prescription drug costs at $2,000 a year for everyone.
Yeah, I haven't been watching the sign language lady, but she's good with the facial expressions. It's almost comical, yeah.
I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but if you want to get an Air Force One and fly to Toronto, Berlin, Moscow, even Moscow, probably.
Moscow.
And bring your prescription with you, and I promise you I'll get it for you for 40% the cost you're paying now. Same company, same drug, same place. Folks, the Affordable Care Act, the old Obamacare.
I love that, he gets...
It's still a very big deal.
He gets very angry, then he gets, the whisper. Why don't we fly to Mexico and see El Sisi while we're at it? I mean, it does look like he's losing a little energy, but so far... I'm just calling balls and strikes. So far, I haven't seen any terrible gaffes.
Million of you can no longer be denied health insurance because of pre-existing condition. But my predecessor, and many in this chamber, want to take the prescription drug away by repealing the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, well, screw the Republicans on that because
let that happen.
When they were in charge, they didn't. So
we stopped you 50 times before, and we'll stop you again. In fact, I'm not only protecting it, I'm expanding it.
Agreed, Sunflower. He did recover from the Moscow thing.
The enacted tax credits of $800 per person per year reduce health care costs for millions of working families. That tax credit expires next year. I want to make that savings permanent.
There doesn't seem to be a lot of enthusiasm in the crowd, which I'm fine with because I think it's always over the top. But
research on women's health has always been underfunded. That's why we're launching the first ever White House initiative on women's health research, led by Jill, doing an incredible job as First Lady. So pass my plan for $12 billion.
Totally agree, Sunflower. It was a lucid recovery in the Moscow thing. I agree.
Across America. I know the cost of housing is so important to you. If inflation keeps coming down, mortgage rates will come down as well. And the Fed acknowledges that. But I'm not waiting. I want to provide an annual tax credit that will give Americans $400 a month for the next 2 years as mortgage rates come down, to put toward their mortgages when they buy their first home or trade up for a little more space. Just for 2 years.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll help. I was reading a thread today that was like the average home costs like
And my
$300,000.
administration is also
mortgage.
eliminating title insurance on federally backed mortgages. When you refinance your home, you can save $1,000 or more as a consequence.
Is that true, Robert? Wow,
For
crazy.
millions of renters, we're cracking down on big landlords who use antitrust law, who break
Well, print money,
antitrust
Baird.
laws by price fixing and driving up rents. We've cut red tape so builders can get federally financing, which is already helping build a record 1.7 million new housing units nationwide.
No one
Now
can afford them.
Now pass and build and renovate.
Yep, Brad, I got a
2 million
low rate when
affordable
Trump was
homes
president, too.
And bring those rents down. To remain the strongest economy in the world, we need to have the best education system in the world. And I suspect all of you, want to give every child, a good start by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. You know,
That's what
I
we
think I pointed
gotta
out
indoctrinate
last
them
year.
younger, huh?
I think I pointed out last year that children coming from broken homes where there's no books, they're not read to, not spoken to very often, start school, kindergarten, or first grade, having heard 1 million fewer words spoken. Well, studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school, go on to earn a 2- and 4-year degree, no matter what their background is.
But also could be correlation, not causation. The type of parent that would be more willing to send someone to preschool is probably doing better at home anyways. Also, when we look at education in Democrat-ran areas, we see cities that have been controlled by Democrats that have zero students that are proficient in math or English.
They were mad that they were angry, I think, well, they were discussing why I wanted to spend money on education. I pointed out to them as vice president, I met with over 182 of those folks. Don't hold me to the exact number. And I asked them what they need most, the CEOs. And you've had the same experience on both sides of the aisle. They say a better educated workforce, right? So I looked
We
at
keep
them,
throwing money at the problem.
and
That's
I
not the
say, I
problem.
come from Delaware. DuPont used to be the 8th largest corporation in the world. And every new enterprise they bought, they educated the workforce to that enterprise. But none of you do that anymore. Why are you angry with me providing you the opportunity for the best educated workforce in the world? And they all looked at me and said, I think you're right.
No, they didn't. What a load of
I want to
shit.
expand high-quality tutoring
What?
and summer learning to see that every child learns to read by 3rd grade.
Did he just say that the problem is corporations not providing education for their employees? The problem is kids come out of these universities with
I'm
a chip
also
on their shoulder,
connecting local
entitled
businesses
because
and
they're
high
so
schools.
bad and they don't
So
educate them.
students get hands-on experience and a path to good paying job, whether or not they go to college. And I want to make sure the college is more affordable. Let's continue increasing the Pell Grants to working and middle-class families and increase record investments in HBCUs and minority-serving institutions, including Hispanic institutions.
Fuck them white kids, right?
And I was told I couldn't universally just change the way in which we dealt with student loans. I fixed 2 student loan programs that already existed.
In an
Reduced the
unconstitutional.
burden of student debt for nearly 4 million Americans, including nurses, firefighters.
Who traditionally
and others
make
in
more
public
money
service.
than the people who, through inflation and taxation, now have to pay those people's
Like
student
Keenan
loans.
Jones, a public educator from Minnesota.
If you're a welder or something tough shit,
Where are you?
You got to
Keenan,
pay my
thank
student
you.
loans.
He's educated hundreds of students so they can go to college. Now he's able to help, after debt forgiveness, get his own daughter to college. And folks, look, such relief is good for the economy because folks are now able to buy a home, start a business,
not.
start a family.
They're not.
While we're at it, I want to give public school teachers a raise.
That'll do it. Teachers' unions will be pleased. Give them a raise and make sure that the kids are locked down from going to schools. Just do remote learning where the teachers do the bare minimum. Sounds great.
And by the way, the first couple of years, we cut the deficit.
You did.
Now, let me speak to the question of fundamental fairness for all Americans. I've been delivering real results in fiscally responsible ways.
There you have it.
We've already cut the federal deficit. We've cut the federal deficit over $1 trillion.
It's not true.
I signed the bipartisan deal.
They take... Cutting the deficit means from the absurd height of COVID spending.
It's my goal to cut the federal deficit another $3 trillion by making big corporations and very wealthy finally beginning to pay their fair share.
Yep, that's the problem.
Look, I'm a capitalist. If you want to make or can make $1 million or millions of bucks, that's great. Just pay your fair share in taxes.
So we're raising the tax here? Is that what you're going to do?
A fair tax code is how we invest things to make this country great. Healthcare, education, defense, and so much more. But here's the deal. The last administration enacted a $2 trillion tax cut. Overwhelmingly benefit the top 1%.
It's
the
not
very
true.
wealthy, the biggest corporations.
It's not true at all. It actually
and
benefited working class
the
people the
federal
most.
Deficit.
And again, under Joe Biden, we've seen one of the largest wealth transfers from the poor and working class to the upper class.
Any presidential term in American history. Check the numbers. Folks at home, does anybody really think the tax code is fair? Do you really think the wealthy and big corporations need another $2 trillion tax break? I sure don't. I'm going to keep fighting like hell to make it fair.
That's why those
Under
corporations
my
are going to
plan,
continue to send money to the
earning less than
Democratic Party because they
$400,000
know
will pay
that it's
additional
not going to
penny
be
in
them
federal
that are
tax.
on the hook.
Nobody, not one penny. And they haven't yet. In fact, the child tax credit I passed during the pandemic cut taxes for millions of working families and cut child poverty in half. Restore that child tax credit. No child should go hungry in this country. The way to make the tax code fair is to make big corporations and the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Remember in 2020, 55 of the biggest companies in America made $40 billion and paid zero in federal income tax. Zero. Not anymore. Thanks to the law I wrote and we signed, big companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. But that's still less than working people pay in federal taxes. It's time to raise corporate minimum tax to at least 21%.
Literally, with the way that they're spending money, this would do almost nothing to cut into the deficit. Even if it didn't dissuade corporations from moving elsewhere and investing less, it's still, we're talking about printing $1 trillion every 3 months.
Executive pay when it's only supposed to be $1 million that could be deducted. They can pay them $20 million if they want, but deduct $1 million. End it now. You know, there are 1,000 billionaires in America. You know what the average federal tax is for those billionaires? No. They're making great sacrifices, 8.2%. That's far less than the vast majority of Americans pay. No billionaire should pay a lower federal tax rate than a teacher, a sanitation worker, or a nurse. I propose a minimum tax for billionaires of 25%, just 25%. You know what that would raise? That would raise $500 billion over the next 10 years. And imagine what that could do for America.
That's like
imagine a future.
1 month of spending.
Childcare. Millions of families can get they need to go to work.
$500 billion.
The economy.
Wait a minute,
imagine
isn't that
a future with paid leave? Because no one should have to choose.
Wow, look at all the cool things we could have if we weren't sending money to Ukraine that he's talking about.
Imagine the future of home care and elder care and people living with disabilities so they can stay in their homes.
I don't believe
family caregivers
that number he said either.
Get the pay they deserve. Tonight, let's all agree once again to stand up for seniors. Many of my friends on the other side of the aisle want to put Social Security on the chopping block. If anyone here tries to cut Social Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age,
I will stop you.
And we're gonna buy kids every video game they want. I'll stop you if you try to stop. It's
more into
ludicrous.
Social Security than millionaires and billionaires do. It's not fair.
It's not true.
We have two ways to go. Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the proposal. Oh no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. You're not going to cut another $2 trillion for the super wealth. That's good to hear. I'll protect and strengthen Social Security and make the wealthy pay their fair share.
I will say, even that seemed to be off the cuff, and it was not very gaff-ridden.
Look.
It seems to be more lucid than other times we've seen. Even the couple times that he's sort of gone a little off script.
Too many corporations raise prices to pad their profits, charging more and more for less and less. That's why we're cracking down on corporations that engage in price gouging and deceptive pricing, from food to healthcare to housing. In fact, the snack companies think you won't notice if they change.
This dude told us there wasn't inflation. It wasn't a big deal for 3 years. Now he's blaming corporations.
Size bag. Put fewer chips in it. No, I'm not joking. It's called shrinkflation. Pass Bobby Casey's bill and stop this. I really mean it.
You can't force companies. What are you talking about? We demand that companies not ever raise their prices or shrink the size. Like, it's nonsense.
Commercial on Snickers bars. You get charged the same amount, and you got about, 10% fewer Snickers in it.
What?
Look, I'm also getting rid of junk fees. Those hidden fees at the end of your bill that are there without your knowledge. My administration announced we're cutting credit card late fees from $32 to $8. Banks and credit card companies are allowed to charge what it costs them to instigate the collection. And that's a hell of a lot, like $8 and 30-some dollars. They don't like it. Credit card companies don't like it. But I'm saving American families $20 billion a year with all the junk fees I'm eliminating. Folks at home,
in theory, don't mind capping the credit card late fees.
That's why the banks are so mad. It's $20 billion in profit.
The banks aren't mad. They're very happy with the Democrats and Biden's administration.
My administration has proposed rules to make cable, travel, utilities, and online ticket sellers tell you the total price up front, so there are no surprises. It matters. It matters. And so does this. In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen.
What a load of shit.
Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers.
So what?
100 more immigration judges.
So what? Shake the hands of illegals crossing the border?
Cases. 4,300 more asylum officers. And new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now.
Quicker amnesty for people. Quicker asylum for people. Right.
What are you against? 100 more high-tech drug detection machines to significantly increase the ability to screen and stop vehicles smuggling fentanyl into America. That's killing thousands of children.
Because of Biden. Remember, this man told you for 3 years there was no border crisis. None. Now it's an election year, and they're trying to sneak through a bunch of bullshit amnesty with saying, but we will fund a couple things.
When the number of migrants at the border is overwhelming.
Overwhelming?
The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill.
You told us it wasn't.
The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low. Look at the facts. I know.
The Border Patrol Union also blames you exclusively for the crisis at the border.
I believe that given the opportunity for a majority in the House and Senate would endorse the bill as well, a majority right now. But unfortunately, politics has derailed this bill so far. I'm told my predecessor called members of Congress in the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win, he viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him. It's not about him, it's not about me. I'd be
You literally let the border open for 3
really.
years.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand. But look, if we change the dynamic at the border, people pay these smugglers $8,000 to get across the border because they know if they get by and let it
Listen
in
to
the
this guy
country,
talk like
it's
he
6
knows
to 8
there's a
years before
crisis.
they have a
Where
hearing.
was he for 3 years?
And it's worth taking the chance.
Wasn't this the guy running that said he wanted a surge at the border?
If it's
it
only
shouldn't be a crime?
6 weeks, the idea is it's highly unlikely that people will pay that money and come all that way knowing that they'll be able to be kicked out quickly. Folks, I would respectfully suggest my Republican friends owe it to the American people, get this bill done. We need to act now.
Now it's an emergency right before the election. I have to pretend like I give a shit about the border. What a joke. What an absolute joke.
And if my predecessor is watching, instead of paying politics and pressuring members of Congress to block the bill, join me in telling the Congress to pass it. We can do it together. But that's what here's what he will not do. I will not demonize immigrants saying they are poison in the blood of our country. I will
want
not
them here. That's why they're coming. Because
families.
you expressly said you want them coming.
I will not ban people because of their faith. Unlike my predecessor on my first day in office, I introduced a comprehensive bill to fix our immigration system. Take a look at it. It has all these and more. Secure the border.
It was
Provide
an amnesty
a pathway
bill.
to citizenship for dreamers, and so much more. But unlike my predecessor, I know who we are as Americans. We're the only nation in the world with a heart and soul that draws from old and new. Home to Native Americans, whose ancestors have been here for thousands of years. Home to people of from every place on earth. They came freely. Some came in chains. Some came when famine struck, like my ancestral family in Ireland. Some to flee persecution, to chase dreams that are impossible anywhere but here in America. That's America. And we all come from somewhere, but we're all Americans.
Yeah, is that true, Eric? Like I said, I'll look afterwards and see what's going down. People are reporting that a bunch of government websites are down.
Look, folks, we have a simple choice. We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it. I'm ready to fix it.
You're not.
Send me the border bill now. A transformational moment in history happened 59 years ago today in Selma, Alabama. Hundreds of foot soldiers for justice marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, named after the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, to claim their fundamental right to
Robert
vote.
Byrd?
They were beaten, they were bloody, and left for dead. Our late friend and former colleague, John Lewis, was on that march. We miss him.
Yeah, he was allowed to have a funeral, right? During COVID while the rest of us weren't? That John Lewis? I mean, it's sad he died, don't get me wrong,
Joining
but
us
he
tonight.
could be celebrated, unlike your family.
Our
I
other
remember.
marchers, both in the gallery and on the floor, including Betty Mae Fikes, known as the voice of Selma. The daughter of gospel singers and preachers, she sang songs of prayer and protest on that bloody Sunday. to help shake the nation's conscience. 5 months later, the Voting Rights Act passed and was signed into law.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Are they going to talk about
Thank you.
voter ID being racist here? Is that what we're going to do? She's got a nice smile. Give her
But
that.
59 years later, there are forces taking us back in time. Voter suppression, election subversion.
Here we go.
Unlimited dark money, extreme gerrymandering. John Lewis was a great friend to many of us here.
Dark
If
money?
you truly want to honor him,
I mean,
and all
did you see the
heroes
reporting on
who marched with
Letitia
him,
James
then
this
it's
week?
time to do more than talk. Pass the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Dark money? Like Hunter Biden's
stop.
art deals?
Stop denying another core value of America, our diversity across American life. Banning books, it's wrong.
Pornography
Instead of
for
erasing
children.
history, let's make history. I want to protect fundamental rights. Pass the Equality Act. And my message to transgender Americans, I have your back.
He's got the trans back. All right.
Pass the PRO Act for workers' rights. Raise the federal minimum wage because every worker has a right to a decent living more than $7 an hour. We're also making history by confronting the climate crisis, not denying it. I don't think any of you think there's no longer a climate crisis. At least I hope you don't. I'm taking the most significant action ever on climate in the history of the world.
Yeah, those automakers love it.
I'm cutting our carbon emissions in half by 2030, creating tens of thousands of clean energy jobs like the IBW work is building and installing 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations.
Shutting down pipelines, costing jobs, blowing up Nord
Conserving.
Stream.
30% of America's lands and waters by 2030. And taking action on environmental justice fence line communities smothered by the legacy of pollution. And pattern after the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps, I launched the Climate Corps to put 20,000 young people to work in the forefront of our clean energy future. I'll triple that number in a decade.
This guy yawning. That sums it up.
To state the obvious, all Americans deserve the freedom to be safe. And America is safer today than when I took office. Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up. The biggest increase in history. It was then, through my American Rescue Plan, which every American voted against, I might add, we made the largest investment in public safety ever. Last year, the murder rate saw the sharpest decrease in history. Violent crime fell
They
to one
just
of its
stopped
lowest
keeping
levels in more than
track.
50 years.
Why
But
is
we
the
have more
National
to do.
Guard being deployed in the
Let's help
subways
cities
right
invest in
now?
More community police officers, more mental health workers, more community violence intervention.
Just more bullshit
Give
gaslighting.
communities the tool to crack down on gun crime, retail crime, and carjacking.
The party of defund the
Keep
police
building
has
trust,
spoken.
as I've been doing by taking executive action on police reform and calling for it to be the law of the land. Directing my cabinet to review the federal classification of marijuana and expunging thousands of convictions for the mere possession, because no one should be jailed for simply using or have it on their record.
Look at Kamala standing up. Isn't that what you did as a prosecutor?
Take on crimes of domestic violence. I'm ramping up the federal enforcement of the Violence Against Women Act that I proudly wrote when I was a senator, so we can finally end the scourge against women in America.
We're going to end the scourge against women. Okay?
There are other kinds of violence I want to stop.
Violence
With
against
us
Supreme
tonight
Court
is
justices?
Jasmine, whose 9-year-old sister Jackie was murdered with 21 classmates and teachers in an elementary school in
Uvalde, Texas. Very soon after that happened, Jill and I went to Uvalde for a couple of days. We spent hours and hours with each of the families. We heard their message, so everyone in this room, in this chamber, could hear the same message. The constant refrain, I was there for hours meeting with every family. They said, do something. Do something. Well, I did do something by establishing the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention in the White House, that the Vice President is leading the charge. Thank you for doing it.
All right, we have a committee, okay?
Meanwhile,
how many lives does that committee save? I mean, if I wanted you to do something, that's what you did.
My predecessor told the NRA he's proud he did nothing on guns when he was president.
It's not true. He tried to push back on stuff.
After another shooting in
disagreed
Iowa
with.
recently, he said, when asked what to do about it, he said, just get over it.
Don't believe that.
There's his quote, just get over it. I say, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it.
Violent crimes rampant in Democrat-controlled areas. You would really be cracking down on prosecutors that are allowing violent criminals out in the street if you really wanted to stop
I'm proud we beat
it.
the NRA when I signed the most
Instead, you'll go
significant
after lawful
safety
gun
law
owners.
in nearly 30 years because of this Congress. We now must beat the NRA again. I'm demanding a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
Fine assault weapon.
Pass universal background checks.
Why is it racist to
None
have
of
a
this.
vote, an ID to vote, but
None
not
of
for
this.
getting a gun?
I taught the Second Amendment for 12 years. None of this violates the Second Amendment or vilifies responsible gun owners. You know, as we manage challenges at home, we're also managing crises abroad, including in the Middle East. I know the last 5 months have been gut-wrenching for so many people, for the Israeli people, for the Palestinian people, and so many here in America. This crisis began on October 7th with a massacre by a terrorist group called Hamas, as you all know.
You help fund?
1,200 innocent people, women and girls, men and boys, slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. The deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and 250 hostages taken. Here in this chamber tonight are families whose loved ones are still being held by Hamas. I pledge to all the families that we will not rest until we bring every one of your loved ones home. We also...
It's a tough moment for Biden here because he's got to thread this needle, not him, but his speechwriters, on there's a lot of people on the left that are Hamas sympathizers.
We will also work around the clock to bring home Evan and Paul, Americans being unjustly detained by the Russians and others around the world. Israel has the right to go after Hamas. Hamas ended this conflict by releasing hostages, laying down arms, could end it by releasing the hostages, laying down arms, and surrendering those responsible for October 7th. But Israel has Israel has a added burden because Hamas hides and operates among the civilian population like cowards, under hospitals, daycare centers, and all the like. Israel also has a fundamental responsibility, though, to protect innocent civilians in Gaza. This war has taken a greater toll on innocent civilians than all previous wars in Gaza
There
combined.
they are, just holding the sign.
More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, most of whom are not Hamas. Thousands and thousands of innocents, women and children, girls and boys, also orphaned. Nearly 2 million more Palestinians under bombardment or displacement. Homes destroyed, neighborhoods in rubble, cities in ruin. Families without food, water, medicine. It's heartbreaking. I've been working nonstop to establish an immediate ceasefire that would last for 6 weeks to get all the prisoners released, all the hostages released, to get the hostages home and ease the intolerable and humanitarian crisis and build toward an enduring, something more enduring. The United States has been leading international efforts to get more.
Remember, we had
humanitarian
historic
assistance to
peace
Gaza.
deals when Trump was
Tonight,
there in the Middle East.
I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters.
So we're sending money
US
and weapons
boots will
to
be on the
Israel
ground.
and then sending troops to
A
help
temporary
Gaza.
pier will enable a massive increase
That's what
in
we're doing.
humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day.
Yeah. And then they'll be attacked and will be drugged further into the war. Oh, by the way, East Palestine,
And
average
Israel
Americans
must do its
back home.
part.
Sorry about your luck.
Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire. And they're announcing they're going to have a crossing in northern Gaza. For the leadership of Israel, I say this: humanitarian
Yeah, he just
assistance
mentioned the port
cannot
of
be a
Gaza.
secondary consideration or a bargaining chip. Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority. As we look to the future, the only real solution to the situation is a two-state solution over time.
None of our business.
And I say this as a lifelong supporter of Israel.
Good point, Hoofhearted.
My
He's
entire
been working
career,
nonstop
no
in
one
his
has a stronger
two-third,
record of Israel than I
vacation
do. I
1/3 of the
challenge any of you
time.
here.
He's been in office.
I'm the only American president to visit Israel in wartime. But there is no other path that guarantees Israel's security and democracy. There is no other path that guarantees Palestinians can live in peace with peace and dignity. And there's no other path that guarantees peace between Israel and all of its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, with whom I'm talking. Creating stability in the Middle East also means containing the threat posed by Iran. That's why I built a coalition of more than a dozen countries.
That's why we sent them money.
To defend international shipping and freedom of navigation in the Red Sea. I've ordered strikes to degrade the Houthi capability and defend U.S. forces in the region.
There we go.
As Commander-in-Chief, I will not hesitate to direct further measures to protect our people.
How
and our
about we
military
just
personnel.
stop funding both sides and get our people out of there? How's that sound?
For years, I've heard many of my Republican and Democratic friends say that China is on the rise and America is falling behind. They've got it backwards. I've been saying it for over 4 years, even when I wasn't president. America's rising. We have the best economy in the world.
It's just
And
not
since I've
true.
come to office, our GDP is up, our trade deficit with China is down to the lowest point in over a decade.
It's
and we're
not
standing
true
up
that
against
America's
China's unfair
rising.
economic practices.
We're becoming a more multipolar
We're
world
standing up
because
for
the U.S.
peace and
is losing
stability
its
across the
status as the
Taiwan
sole
Straits.
hegemon.
I've revitalized our partnership and alliance in the Pacific. India, Australia, Japan,
India's working more
South
with
Korea,
BRICS, I believe.
Pacific Islands. I've made sure that the most advanced American technologies can't be used in China, not allowing to trade them there. Frankly, for all this tough talk on China, it never occurred to my predecessor to do any of that. I want competition with China, not conflict. And we're in a stronger position to win the conflict of the 21st century against China than anyone else, for that matter, than any time as well.
How's your son doing with
Here
China,
at home,
Joe? How's
I've
those
signed
Chinese
over
spy
400
balloons?
bipartisan
How's that
bills.
investigation into China's
There's
lab
more
going?
to pass my unity agenda. Strengthen penalties on fentanyl trafficking. You don't want to do that, huh? Pass bipartisan privacy legislation to protect our children online. Harness the promise of AI to protect us from peril.
No.
Ban
Did you
AI
hear that little?
voice impersonations and more.
Harness AI, right?
Keep our truly
So they could
sacred
further
obligation.
propagandize
Train
to
and
the
equip
people.
Those we send into harm's way.
Little line there,
Care
one of the
for
most
them and
important in
their
the whole
families when they
speech.
come home and when they don't. That's why, with the strong support and help of Dennis and the VA, I signed the PACT Act. One of the most significant laws ever, helping millions of veterans exposed to toxins who now are battling more than 100 different cancers. Many of them don't come home, but we owe them and their families support. We owe it to ourselves to keep supporting our new health research agency called ARPA-H, and remind us
remind us that we can do big things, like end cancer as we know it, and we will.
Anybody trust the pharma companies at this point?
Let me close with this. Yay.
That's funny. I think this is all right. This is all right by Joe. Honest to goodness.
I know you don't want to hear any more, Lindsay, but I got to say a few more things.
It's funny.
I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while.
Also funny. He's doing all right.
When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation. Between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future. My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality, to respect everyone, to give everyone a fair
Not
chance,
kissing
to give
his ass.
no safe harbor. Now other people my age see it differently. The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution, that's not me. I was born amid World War II when America stood for the freedom of the world. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, among working-class people who built this country.
Like corn pop.
I watched in horror as two of my heroes, like many of you did, Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, were assassinated. And their legacies inspired me to pursue a career in service. I left the law firm and became a public defender because my city of Wilmington was the only city in America occupied by the National Guard after Dr. King was assassinated because of the riots. And I became a county councilman almost by accident. I got elected to the United States Senate when I had no intention of running at age 29. Then vice president to our first black president. Now president to the first women vice president.
Is it just me or does Kamala Harris not clap like a real person? It's like, I don't know. There's something
my
about
career,
it. Like, look, these people are clapping like normal
I've been
people.
told I was too young. By the way, they didn't let me on the Senate elevators for votes sometimes. Not a joke. And I've been told I'm too old. Whether young or old, I've always been known.
I'm convinced. Charge him for his crimes, her. He doesn't have dementia.
The very idea of America is that we're all created equal and deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I won't walk away from it now. I'm optimistic. I really am. I'm optimistic, Nancy. My fellow Americans, the issue facing our nation isn't how old we are, it's how old are our ideas. Hate, anger, revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas.
I mean, do we have to...
But you can't
You're
lead
locking
America
up your opponent.
with ancient ideas that only take us back. You lead America, the land of possibilities. You need a vision for the future and what can and should be done. Tonight you've heard mine. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, not take them away. I see a future where the middle class finally has a fair shot and the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. I see a future where we save the planet from the climate crisis and our country from gun violence. Above all, I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans. And I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America.
We'll talk about it.
I believe in you, the American people. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. I'm going to go to the restaurant, and I'll be right back. We'll talk about it. But I'll leave this on so you guys can see. Make sure he doesn't stumble or anything in the way out. Oh, they shut it off. We don't get to see him stumbling, bumbling. Come on now. All right. So yeah, let's talk about it. First off, I think the speech is a win for Biden in the most important. Oops, sorry about that. It's a win for Biden in the most important sense. He didn't have any big gaffes. That was the big fear, and I mentioned this from the outset. You could predict almost 90% of what he was going to say, maybe introduce a few new, hey, I would like this bill passed or something like that. But generally you expect what to say. These are pre-written speeches. You kind of have a good idea of what's going on. So to me, the speech was all about if Biden made a terrible gaffe and looked like he was very incompetent in front of people that aren't normally watching him, who may have been tuning into the State of the Union, that would be the danger. If he just muddled through the speech, that would have been a victory. And I think that in that sense, it's a victory. Now, ultimately, I'm happy he did well, because if he fell flat in his face there, I think it increases the chance he wouldn't be the candidate. Hopefully, he is still the candidate. But as ridiculous as this going to sound, talking about the president of the most powerful country in the world, hey, kudos to you for making it through an hour-and-a-half speech. That's a victory for him. So, You have to admit, anyone who wants to say, to sort of nitpick and say, but there was a little gaffe here and there. Yeah, that's it. I have little gaffes like that too when I'm speaking. I didn't think there was anything outlandish or anything like that in the way that he spoke. Having said that, if we're just going to focus on stylistically before we get to the specific content of the speech, I have a bias in that I don't like Joe Biden. I don't like the Democrats, right? And that bias is going to influence how I see things. So I just want to say that from the outset before I say this. I feel there's like almost no charisma. It just, was it me, or were you bored? I was sort of like, the overarching theme I got by the end of that was just bored. I feel like even if you hate Trump when he's giving a State of the Union, there's reasons to be entertained, to be engaged. The way he talks, he has more charisma. And even if you hate him, you're paying attention. For me, it was sort of boring. I mean, that's my honest assessment, stylistically, of how I viewed it. There were a couple moments where I have to tip my cap when he's like, oh, you don't like that? But that's sort of entertaining in the sense that the audience is interacting with him. But I thought he did okay. The one gaffe he had about prescription drug prices in Moscow, I totally agree with Sunflower, who said in the chat he recovered from that smoothly. He was like, yeah, even there. Perfectly reasonable as far as that sort of recovery. But I think you could even tell by the audience, they didn't have the enthusiasm that you normally see. Like, to me, it seemed that way. Maybe I'm misreading it, but that's just my gut feeling of how I felt. I don't know. It just sort of droned on. And I think that has to do with Biden's charisma. And also, I think the way the speech was written, it didn't really set itself up to be something that would keep people engaged. There was the beginning where it was kind of, we're a big threat. Putin and Trump and democracy's under attack. So you started off with that high point as far as energy, and then it just kind of droned on. And I think that there's a way as a speechwriter that you can break up the monotony. And one of the ways that you see done in these State of the Unions, and I'm guessing this is why this has become tradition, is to say, oh, someone's here, I want to recognize them. Because it gets like an applause and it breaks up the monotony. And so I'm not saying this to the detriment of the people that he had there, but it just didn't have the excitement of some of the other State of the Unions I've seen where they've been like, here's a World War II vet and it's his birthday. And like the crowd seems more enthusiastic. And it just, to me, it was just like, okay, the woman from Selma or whatever, that I won't take away from that. Someone who, was involved in the civil rights movement, a union worker, a union boss. Who else did they mention? I mean, I don't know. To me, it just, people were saying, and I saw this comment, it wasn't a State of the Union, it was a campaign speech. Yeah, but in fairness, so it's Trump's last State of the Union. I mean, that's what they're going to do. They're trying to talk up how good things are, and you're going to compare it to what you think your opponent would be. The Laken Riley thing, I don't think he would have, I think it was a pre-planned bit when they shouted Laken Riley to hold up the pin and say that. It was a throwaway. It didn't seem, he's like, yeah, it's tragic she lost her life, but what about all the other people that lose their lives? If I was Laken Riley's family, I don't know that I would have been that happy with that mention, but neither here nor there. I might not have been happy with anything he said because I blame him for the border. So, clever that they had something pre-planned for that. But yeah, I mean, just stylistically, I think both the way the speech was written and the way that Biden delivers, it just came across as boring. Now, content-wise, we'll bury the lead. We'll leave the first 15, 20 minutes alone, and let's go to the rest. When you're talking about, well, these are the things I would like to see get passed, keep in mind, who is his audience here? His audience isn't me. It's probably not you, right? Even if you're watching me and you hate my politics and you're a big Biden supporter, what he's really trying to do here is to talk to people that haven't made up their mind. Moderates or people that are struggling that don't often watch him. And this is sort of a bully pulpit moment where you get to talk to them basically uninterrupted and give your sales pitch, right? Without someone fact-checking you and this, that, and the other. And so you could always make things sound good, and you could say, well, here's some new policies that I want to push and our opponents don't like it, and this would solve this, and look at these numbers that have showed I'm doing things economically well. And I'm not going to get into it tonight. I'm sure there are people fact-checking right now. But, it's clever how they do this. Inflation is down. The deficit's been cut. Again, all of this is the rate of it, right? So, when they talk about the deficit being cut, if we spend the deficit, it's an interesting concept. Let's say that 1 year Congress spends $1 trillion that we don't have. So we bring in $1 trillion of taxes, but we spend $2 trillion. The deficit is $1 trillion, right? If next year the deficit is $900 billion, they say we cut the deficit, but you still spent $900 billion. But the deficit's down, we cut it. So when you're looking at the record high spendings under COVID, which, by the way, Republicans and Trump deserve blame for, they do, right? But Democrats were certainly on board and wanted to spend even more. And so then when you look at those and they say, well, we cut the deficit. Well, no, inflation's down, right? Because inflation was like at 10% based on the numbers you were giving year to year. And now it's fallen to like 7%, then 5%, then 3%. You're still paying 25% more for your groceries. But last year it went up 10%, and this year it only went up 5% of what you're paying. And so, and not to mention the numbers get revised downward all the time. But But in general, he is selling a story that sounds plausible with numbers to people that may not be looking into those numbers heavily and might say, oh, okay, maybe things aren't as bad as it seems. I don't think this speech is going to move the needle in any significant way, though. I think you'll see a little bump, but it won't last. It won't be long lasting. But, you know, I think the strong point of Joe's speech tonight would be to people that maybe are on the fence that are like, well, I don't really like Donald Trump, so I'd be willing to vote for Joe, but is he just a mental incompetent at this point? And I think you could reasonably look at him tonight if you're not paying attention to him on a regular basis and say, oh, maybe the stories of him, you know, not having dementia and stuff are overblown. He got through an hour-and-a-half speech. That's pretty impressive, I guess. So in that sense, I predict a slight bump, 1% to 2% in the polling based on this. We'll see. I don't think it'll be long-lasting, but I don't think he really there were a couple things that, stood out to me that I thought were important, but I don't think, that he said anything totally out there that it was like, oh man, that policy right there, that's going to be key to a contingency of his. The Gaza port thing, that's always a great idea, sending more troops to the Middle East. Yay. I'm sure that won't blow up in our face. Yay. I mean, it's always funny to me. We fund both sides of these conflicts. It's a joke. I will say it's not easy being in Biden's position here where you have to, the Israeli lobby that's heavily involved in both Republicans and Democrats, you have to keep appeasing them, but you also have to appease the more radical people in your base that are like Hamas supporters. Yeah, Sneed, I think it'll be a nice excuse to escalate the conflict from the perspective of the United States. So, the scariest thing he said was about just that little line while applause was going on about the need to control AI. That'll be the next step. And I'm not technologically minded in a significant sense, but even a layman like me understands just how powerful of a tool for manipulation AI is going to be. It already is, and it's only going to get more sophisticated. If you look, for example, at how much influence the algorithm on things like Google, like if you start a YouTube channel, like me, I have a YouTube channel, right? How do I get my name out there, right? The best way that I'm going to get my name out there is if the algorithm recommends me to people. If it doesn't, if it gives me community strikes, if it shadow bans me, if it demonetizes me, it's hard for me, an average person, to build up a big audience to get my voice out there. Maybe there's people out there that are like, wow, I really like what Rob has to say on a lot of these issues. But if they never see what I'm saying, how would they know? They just... good clip from tonight. Let's see here. Let's see what you got. And that's just one little thing, the algorithm of a place like YouTube. Now, magnify that out for everyone and not just YouTube, but a Google search engine or other forms of social media. And you can start to see, again, there was a professor named Robert Epstein that said that he thought that up to 16 million votes could have been swayed by the algorithms in the 2020 election. 16 million. And we're talking about an election that was decided basically by 40,000 votes in a handful of states. And 16 million people, Oh, the owner of Dragon Ball Z passed away. That's a bummer. I used to like that show in school. So imagine, if that's just an algorithm, imagine the impact that AI will have. It will become more and more... No, I didn't do a bingo card, key lime. It'll become more and more important. Just like 10 years before people really started looking everything up online, if you said like, oh, you should go to a search engine and search that, people would be like, oh, I can see how that'd be useful. Now it's ubiquitous. Now with, know something, you just go. The AI is going to be even more influential than that. And make no mistake about it. You could go check out a guy by the name of Mike Benz, B-E-N-Z. He was recently on Tucker Carlson. He is phenomenal in talking about how our institutions, our intel agencies, our political landscape, our mainstream media is relying on a censored internet to push the establishment politics. And that's only going to get worse. And so to hear them come right out and say, for democracy, we have to control AI, that to me raises alarm bells. Biden's speech was all about me. Good deal. You know, and then at the beginning of the speech, I mean, it's very interesting how they do this. In 1940, you know, Hitler, we had to stand here, and FDR stood, and the country's under threat, democracy's under threat. And today we're here saying the same, both because of Putin and because of Trump. Putin and Trump. And that's how they started the speech. The fear-mongering. We have to control who you could vote for to protect democracy. That sort of paradox, and that is their argument. And it's straight out of the book 1984. War is Peace. Same thing, doublespeak. Let's see this clip that you put. Oh, Lincoln Riley. This is where he gets the pin, huh? Okay.
I know how to say the name.
Lincoln Riley. Say your name, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
In fairness, I get it. I get what they're doing with that clip. I do. But what's he supposed to do? Sit there and have like a debate with her as he's walking up to give the speech? So I get that. But so, you know, I don't know what other people's... Now, I could predict this. Obviously, I've been with you the whole time. I haven't looked at any other media. I could predict that right now the mainstream media is just like... But one of the greatest speeches ever. I'll guarantee if you go to MSNBC right now, that's what they're saying. It's one of the greatest speeches that's ever been delivered. It was phenomenal. It was just great. Trump couldn't give a speech like that. Oh, the people that say that... the people that are saying that Biden's lost an edge, did you see him here? An hour and a half. That'll answer any question about him being incapable. I'll guarantee. Vivek's on Crowder with 170,000 watching on Rumble. Good for them. I love Vivek. I think he should have been the candidate instead of Trump. But if Trump had sense, he'd pick Vivek as the vice president. I don't know that he would be the best to garner votes. I don't know how important the vice president will be candidate will be in garnering votes, but I think he would be the best as far as actually enacting policies and suggesting policies that need to be done. So I'm a fan of Vivek until he proves me otherwise. Maybe he gets in office and does nothing. But I just got to say, I don't know what I did. Maybe it was my clever name of this video and it was the State of the Union, but thank you to all the people watching on X. Please consider following me. I stream on X quite regularly. I try to do a lot of debates, bashing around some goofy lefties, talk a lot about corruption and stuff. So 84 people watching on X. Thank you so much. It's very impressive. If you can give this video a thumbs up if you're on X and consider giving me a follow there, I'd really appreciate it. And you can check out my other channels too. But I'll be honest, the reason I diversify is originally, obviously, Twitter was the worst platform to be on because Twitter was so censorious under Jack Dorsey for people of my political persuasion. But I have to diversify because places like Twitch and YouTube will ban you for various things as well. And Twitch, to their credits, never banned me for anything, but that's just because I'm small time. YouTube gives me community strikes all the time. So I diversify. I'm also on Rumble and Kick. So that's why I'm on so many platforms. It would have been very easy for me if when I started streaming back in 2017 and I had 0 followers, if Elon had owned X, I'd probably streamed exclusively to X as long as they had, I don't know back then, would they have Periscope back then? I don't know if I would have used that, but that's why I'm on so many platforms. So consider giving me a follow. I'll put those all out there again. Any other points that people want me to address? Questions before I get off here for the evening that anyone has? And also, if you're typing on X, I'll be able to see your chat as well. So if anyone on X has any specific questions, I guess if I had to sum up what I feel hey, what's up, Fedor? If I had to sum up what I feel about this speech in a sentence or two, it would be like boring, couple of really bad ideas, but ultimately a win for Biden because he got through it without a lot of gaffes. 1 out of 10. Well, again, the way I would evaluate this is differently than other people. As just a speech, I would give it like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. I thought it was, it was an average speech is what I would say. I thought that the speech written would be about I would say the speech written would be about a 5 out of 10, and the speech delivered would be about a 4 out of 10. So maybe we'll give it a 4.5 out of 10. But for the low expectations Biden had and what he needed to do with this speech, which was to make it through without falling flat in his face, I give it like a 7 out of 10. He didn't have any significant gaffes. He did not. And when he went off script, albeit very shortly when he did it, it was competent. It didn't come across as like, really confused or out of left field or anything like that. Turn on C-SPAN and see how many autographs he signs. I'll leave you guys do that. I don't really care. React to this clip. Yeah, we already did that, right? Are you behind? I already reacted to that clip. That's where Marjorie Taylor Greene gave him the Laken Riley clip. Like I said, I don't know what he's supposed to say in that moment, but he's like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like if I'm in office and I'm just walking through a crowd and someone's like, Mr. President or Mr. Governor or whatever I'd be, what do you think about this case? I'd be like, it's terrible. But you're talking to 100 people, so no problem, G-Unit. I'm missing the rebuttal. How's that going? I forgot all about the rebuttal. I'll watch it some other day. Anybody, any comments on the rebuttal? When I was in Scranton, when I was a young man in Scranton 100 years ago. Maybe I should have watched the rebuttal, but the rebuttal. Who's giving the rebuttal? There's a question. Let's see if I can find it. Maybe someone's got it on X. I don't see it. Am I down to go on Jim Bob's panel? Sure. As long as it's a day I'm available. I'll talk about whatever. Katie Britt. I don't even know who that is. Let's see if I can find it. I'll search her name. Senator Katie Britt. All right. She's streaming it to her channel, hopefully. That'd be smart. I mean, come on, Katie Britt. How are you not streaming it to your X channel? Well, if anyone has a link to it. Now, again, people are like, well, I wonder what lefty streamers or whatever will have thought of this. Well, your bias is going to influence. I'll admit, my score might be lower than others. Like a totally objective, neutral person might rate Biden's speech a little higher than me. I'm trying to factor that in, though. But someone who likes Biden, I mean, they're going to be like, it was incredible. 8 out of 10. I mean, they're saying Biden, like some of these streamers are saying Biden's the best president ever, or like top 3. Like, how do you take these people seriously? It's a joke. Yeah, I'll reach out to him, Zen. I would be happy to do it. I like Jim Bob. 10 out of 10 speech says I'm really important. And he knows. He was on that Pretty Fly for a White Guy video all those years ago with the Offspring. I won't debate me anymore. And not because I'm rude or anything, just because he knows. He says he likes to stay in his bubble. He did come in my channel the other day and say something about the confidential human source that got arrested. I was like, hey, man, you want to come on and talk about it? No. He knows. He knows. Yeah. Anything else? We'll go to, that's 11. So, ultimately, no one's going to like to hear this if you're a fan of mine. Pisco loved it. He watched it in the bath with some candles. Destiny Price said it was acceptable, would pivot to Trump being worse. It's funny. Even our resident lefty, Key Lime, can have some zingers. Fedor, thank you. One last thing I would like to say here about my channel then. I need to work on some slight anger management issues, I feel. And by that I mean, I feel like I'm regretting the past couple weeks towards the end of my stream really going off on some people in the chat. Now, I'm going to keep going off on people, but maybe I should be a little more reasonable in not kicking them off the channel, even if they're obvious trolls. So something I used to do, and my friend Key Lime here can address this, is I like to have unbanning days. Now, Aftershock, you deserve every bit of shit I give you. So I think tomorrow I'm going to unban everyone from Twitch and YouTube. And so bring on the trolls. They'll be back and slowly get banned again. But we'll celebrate with an unbanning. Bring on the trolls. Maybe if I unban everyone, someone will want to come on and debate me in Discord, and I'll make fun of them and have a good old time. Just ravishing lefties like I'm usually good at doing. So that's my plan for tomorrow. We'll see if there's any specific news items that come up. So you never know. Sometimes Friday. Is tomorrow Friday? You're still banned from the Discord. Look, to all my Discord followers, you're not missing much, Keyline. My Discord's dead. I rarely post there. I just do it to chat to people online. 1.3 million watching Tucker on X. Yeah, I'll probably watch that tomorrow sometime during the day. I got a lot of house cleaning stuff to do tomorrow, if I'm honest with you, so I'll probably get on that. Lefties want you out. Yeah, I know, JC. Still no word back from Tim Pool's show. The last they said, they were going to try to schedule me for the 15th. I would say the chances of that are low at this point if they haven't got back to me yet. So I'm the type of person, I don't know what the proper etiquette is. Am I supposed to just bother them every day sending emails? I'm not going to do that. So about every 3 days, I'll send an email. I'm like, hey, just reaching out. You know, originally I was scheduled to be on March 1st, and then they slid that back to the 15th, and so I haven't heard back from them since. Yeah, I was supposed to do Tim Pool's Culture War. I was supposed to debate a lefty like Destiny or the Krasensteins. Hell, I told him I'd debate Cenk Uyghur. He just entered his presidential campaign. I would have no problem. I would love to debate Cenk. Would have thought it would have been fun. But unfortunately, I don't know what's going on. Look, it's election season, and I'm a no-name. So even though I'm probably the best debater that we have in this sphere, Cenk for president, why not? Yeah, I have no hard feelings. If I'm them and I could schedule Vivek or, Jack Posobiec or, Ron DeSantis or something. I don't think DeSantis would go on Tim Pool. But, I would take those people over me in a heartbeat. So I get it, and it's difficult. They also want me to come on to debate someone. And so the problem I'm gathering is they're having difficulty finding someone for me to debate when their schedule coincides and would be able to do it. So I understand that. Yeah, I would say I'm the best political debater. Who you got over me, Zen? Andrew from The Crucible? You think Andrew's better than me? I disagree, one. And second, he's not really debating like specific political stuff like I am. Andrew's more of a philosophical, cultural debater, I think. So I don't necessarily include him in the same sphere as me. When I say sphere, I'm talking people that focus on like politics, the two candidates, things of that nature. Jack's cringe and a garbage debater. Yeah, I don't know. I sometimes with the bigger name people, like, I was on Ian Crossland's show, who's Tim Pool's co-host, who moderated the big January 6th debate between the Krasensteins and Destiny versus Alex Jones, Darren Beatty, and Glenn Greenwald. And I was unimpressed with the right side of that issue, or I was not impressed. I debated Destiny on January 6th beforehand because he was using me as prep, and I thought I did much, much better. But, yeah, I hear you, Zen. I don't mind. Election season, they need me on. I agree. They should bring me on. Thank you, Roman King. I appreciate it. What time am I going to be on tomorrow? I would like to tell you a specific time. We're going to shoot for 8 p.m. Eastern, but I like to wait until my son falls asleep because sometimes he gets very upset if he sees me coming upstairs to my office. So, yeah, Destiny's doing a good job. Look. And let me be clear about one other thing. As much shit as I gave people like Counterpoints, who's a supposed moderate right-winger, for working with a progressive action committee to drum up votes for Democrats and make Democrats more progressive. And he's supposedly a Republican and conservative. It's a joke. But I do say this. The people that are financing that PAC, that progressive PAC, it's actually very smart to do. You should be reaching out to online influencers and trying to get them to go out and get people to vote. I'm not saying that will move the needle in a significant way, but that's going to be the trend. Things are going more than the sort of old way of putting yard signs up. I'm not saying actual justice warrior's all right. Yeah, I like him. And so there should be groups on the right. And I'm trying to reach out to, I have slight inroads to Glenn Beck in that Alex Stein, who has a show on The Blaze, is a friend of mine, who I'm supposed to do his show at some point too. So maybe I'll reach out to Alex. And then the movie Nefarious, my former radio co-host, Carlos Saldivia, who's fantastic, who, by the way, if you're listening, Carlos, congratulations, and everyone keep Carlos in a good way in your thoughts, just had another grandchild born today. So congratulations, Carlos. It's always amazing. And I know you'll be once more an excellent grandfather. So it's a day to celebrate. I'm so happy for you. And thank you for the picture. Just amazing. I feel very good for you. But Carlos was friends with the people that produced the movie Nefarious. And Glenn Beck also was involved with that. And so I actually did an interview with the producers of the movie, which is actually a fantastic movie. Even if you're the type of person that's like, well, I'm not big into the culture war stuff or religion. I thought Nefarious was a good movie on its own, even if you weren't really in it for the message. And so I talked to them, and there's a chance that maybe someday I'll get an introduction to Glenn Beck. But I think this is something that Glenn should be doing. Glenn should, and it doesn't have to be me. I'm not saying that. But Glenn or someone like him should be trying to pay people that are online streamers on the right. Don't get people to lie and make stuff up, but trying to get them to sort of coalesce, come up with a plan to influence, to help register to votes, like someone like bankrolling someone like Scott Pressler, for example, and what he's doing. And you should be doing this with debates as well. You should be willing to go out and be a proxy instead of just being Joe Biden versus Donald Trump debates. You should have proxies debating these issues as well. And I'd be more than happy to be one of those proxies. Do I know who I'm going to debate on Tim Pool's show yet? I do not. I don't know how much I'm supposed to say. I know Destiny was a possible option again, but they're trying to get new people on the show, is what I was told. So they would rather me debate someone that hasn't been on the show debating people. So I threw out a bunch of suggestions. I'll happily debate anyone. It could be a no-name person. I don't care. Soho, I don't know, if I'm honest, Nate G. I don't know if I know that person. So, but, all right. Let's see if there's anyone to raid on Twitch, and then I'll be heading out for the evening, but come back tomorrow. Also, I'm thinking that I should start doing, seeing as how I got some more engagement on Twitter tonight. It's kind of very exciting.
I got one out.
Maybe I should start doing some Twitter Spaces again. I know I was doing them with John Burke. Doing some Twitter Spaces, and just getting the super rabid anti-Trump crowd with that, which is fun. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Zen. I would be happy to go on and debate Destiny. And look, if you're new and you're saying, oh, yeah, Rob, of course the guy's going to say, when you go check out my debates, just go to YouTube and search Rob Noor Destiny or go to my channel. I've debated Destiny probably 6-7 times, and I would say easily 6 of them that I convincingly won. Obviously, he's going to disagree in his audience, but you can be the judge for yourself. The debate I had with him like 2 years ago at this point on Biden versus Trump and their record, was just a beatdown. It just was. David Pakman, I'd be more than happy to debate. Absolutely. And also, the other thing is this. Unlike those people, your Pakmans, your Destinys, the Krasensteins, that's their job. Their full-time job is being a streamer. I do home health care 80, 90 hours a week. I do this as a hobby. If I was able to stream full-time and prepare for debates like I used to, I think I would be even better than I am now. So, anyways, this raid, we got EOD, Preacher, BX Bullet. Okay, we'll give you those 3 options. Preacher 570, EOD, or BX Bullet. All of them are good. Any suggestions? Yeah, the right-wing lady. Rachel Wilson's, if you're into Christian nationalism, she does good. EOD? Okay. All right, let's rate EOD. It's always fun. If you're on any of the other platforms, YouTube or whatever, feel free to go over to my Twitch. You'll get rated into EOD. He's a good guy. Always having fun. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I didn't talk too much over Biden so you could hear him, but I hope I did enough to keep people entertained. I hear you, Roman. I won't say a word. Enjoy this rate of VOD. Thank you all so much. I'll be back around 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. You can find me on all platforms. I'll put those up one more time if you're interested. Thank you especially to everyone that was watching me on X. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, you should consider giving me a follow on X. Inevitably, that'll be the only platform that allows me once I'm kicked off all the other ones. So follow me there. All my materials up there. And with the restream that I have set up, even if you're just typing on X, it'll still show up and I'll be able to respond in real time. So thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you all. Enjoy the rate of EOD. As always, have a good one.